On that gloomy May day in 1924, two young men from Chicago's wealthy families committed one of history's most cold-blooded murders. Nathan Leopold Jr., 19 years old, a genius who spoke 10 languages, was obsessively devoted to Friedrich Nietzsche's Superman theory. But why was this brilliantly intelligent young man burning with the fantasy of the perfect crime, and did he know what fate awaited him at the end of this plan?
Now I will tell you about those cursed days of 1924. I am Nathan Leopold Jr., a privileged young man, born and raised in one of the grand mansions in Chicago's Kenwood neighborhood. My father, Nathan Leopold Sr., is one of the city's renowned manufacturers of boxless paper. In our house, servants move silently, classical music plays under crystal chandeliers, and the shelves of our library are filled with leather-bound books. I am 19 years old and a law student at the University of Chicago. I speak 10 languages. My intelligence is at an extraordinary level. But what truly excites me is Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy. The Superman theory fascinates me. I believe that the moral rules of ordinary people do not apply to intellectually superior people like us. We are different from ordinary people. We are superior. My friendship with Richard Loeb began at the University of Chicago. Dick is a year younger than me, but equally intelligent. His family is also wealthy like ours. The Loeb family are partners in the Sears Roebuck Company. Dick's father, Albert Loeb, is one of Chicago's respected businessmen. Both of us are young men who grew up in luxury, never lacking anything. In the spring months of 1924, a strange obsession began to develop between Dick and me. The idea of committing the perfect murder. This was not just a theoretical discussion for us. We really wanted to test whether it was possible to commit a perfect crime that no one could solve. We were making plans by reading Sherlock Holmes stories and studying detective novels. I remember the atmosphere of Chicago in 1924. We are in the middle of the Prohibition Era. Alcohol is banned, but speakeasy establishments are secretly operating on every corner. As we pass through Michigan Boulevard, we hear the sounds of jazz music seeping from behind hidden doors. King Oliver's cornet, Louis Armstrong's trumpet enliven the city's nights. Flapper girls take to the dance floor with the Charleston dance, reflecting the rebellious spirit of the era with their short skirts and pearl headbands. Al Capone's power has reached its peak in Chicago. From his headquarters in Cicero, he controls half the city. His men walk freely in the Loop area. Police turn a blind eye. The grassy areas stretching from our house in Kenwood to the shores of Lake Michigan look innocent. But the heart of the city is much more complex. The children of wealthy families we meet at parties at the Drake Hotel are bored just like us. We all attend the same private schools, play tennis at the same country clubs, spend time at the same summer vacation resorts, at the party series held in summer houses in Lake Forest. Everyone is bored with the same topics: their father's businesses, plans to go to Harvard, European travels. The friendship between Dick and me actually stems from this boredom. Both of us are bored with the things that normal young men are interested in. Sports, girls, cars do not excite us. What we are looking for is a bigger, more dangerous, more exciting adventure. The city is both very exciting and dangerous. For children of wealthy families like us, this danger seems like just a show we watch from afar. In those hot days of May, we began to work out our plan down to the finest detail. The victim selection was very critical. We did not want to choose someone randomly, because this was against the rules of our intellectual game. Dick suggested Bobby, the young son of the Franks family, whom his family knew. 14 years old, an extremely intelligent child studying at Harvard Preparatory School. Talented in tennis, successful in mathematics classes, the apple of his family's eye. The Franks family was also an established Jewish family, living on the prestigious Ellis Avenue in Kenwood, just like us. Jacob Franks was a successful businessman known in Chicago for real estate investments and business development projects. Flora Franks was an elegant woman known in the city's social circles, participating in charitable activities. Their house was very similar to ours. Large garden, servant quarters, crystal chandelier salons. There were other reasons for choosing Bobby. We knew him, so it would be easy to get him into the car. Since his family was wealthy, they could pay ransom. And most importantly, his disappearance would be noticed immediately, which would ensure our plan would resonate in the media. Our plan was as follows. We would kidnap Bobby, kill him, hide his body, and demand ransom from his family. But our real purpose was not money. For us, this was an intellectual game. Could we deceive the police? Could we commit the perfect murder? These questions excited us. May 21st, 1924, Wednesday. The spring sun is shining in Chicago. Trees are decorating the city with their greenery. Dick and I rented a Willie's Night automobile. I was at the wheel. Dick was sitting next to me. In the car were tools we had prepared beforehand. Handcuffs, cloth pieces, hydrochloric acid, and of course the heavy tool we had prepared to strike a blinding blow. Around 4 in the afternoon, we waited in front of Harvard Preparatory School. When Bobby Franks came out of school, it was easy to call him over since we knew him. Dick leaned out the window and called to him. He asked if Bobby wanted to talk to me about baseball. The innocent child approached the car without any suspicion. The moment Bobby sat in the back seat, Dick suddenly attacked him. He hit him on the head with the tool we had prepared. The short scream the child let out echoed in the car. Then deep silence fell. Bobby immediately fainted. I was at the wheel of the car. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating wildly. But I was still trying to maintain my composure. As we passed through Michigan Boulevard, people in the cars next to us were unaware of what we were doing. It was a normal Wednesday afternoon. People were returning home from work. Children were playing in parks. Life was flowing as usual. Dick checked Bobby's condition. His pulse had weakened. Our plan included keeping him alive for a while longer, but we were experiencing an unexpected complication. The child was more seriously injured than we had anticipated. This was our perfect plan, and everything needed to be under our control. We started driving through the deserted roads in the southern parts of Chicago towards the Wolf Lake area. Along the way, Dick noticed that Bobby was no longer breathing. He had died earlier than our plan. This was an unexpected development, but we decided to continue with our plan. Near Wolf Lake, under the railway bridge, we stopped in a deserted area. The sun was setting. There was no human sound around. We could only hear the noise of the distant train and the sound of the wind. We took the body out of the car and hid it in the sewer pipe we had previously discovered. We tried to make identification difficult with hydrochloric acid. The next day, we sent a ransom letter to Jacob Franks. We demanded $10,000. In the letter, we wrote that Bobby was safe and would be released if the money was delivered. But of course this was a lie. Bobby was already dead. Jacob Franks was in a miserable state those days. He was looking for his son, calling the police, constantly telephoning around. In their house in the Kenwood neighborhood, servants moved silently. His family waited in tears. Chicago newspapers began to report. They were running headlines saying rich family's child missing. But there was an unexpected mistake in our plan. While hiding the body in the Wolf Lake area, I had dropped my glasses. These glasses were made with special lenses and had been sold to only 3 people in Chicago. One of them was me. On May 24th, Bobby's body was found. Chicago police immediately took action. Detective people examined the crime scene inch by inch. When they found my glasses, they traced the lead to Chicago's most famous eyeglass shops. Cook County prosecutor Robert Crow was personally handling the case. Crow was one of Chicago's toughest prosecutors. He was a man who fought gangsters during the Prohibition era, showing mercy to no one. He was following our case with the same determination. When the glasses clue gave me away, police came to our house. They were polite because of their respect for my family, but their questioning was sharp. I could not explain how my glasses got there. At first I said I dropped them while birdwatching, but this explanation did not seem convincing. When Dick and I were taken into custody, all of Chicago's newspapers ran this news from their headlines. Headlines saying university students accused of murder were everywhere. Our families were in shock. My father, Nathan Leopold Sr., could not believe that his son could be involved in such a crime. During the interrogation process, the truth came out when Dick could not hold out. Despite initially accusing each other, we eventually confessed everything. Our perfect murder plan had been ruined because of a pair of glasses. During the trial process, our families hired Chicago's most famous defense attorney, Clarence Darrow. Darrow was one of the legendary lawyers of the United States. This man, who would conduct the Scopes monkey trial, would do everything he could to save our lives. Darrow's defense strategy was to prove that our mental balance was not in place. He was trying to explain why we committed such a crime despite coming from wealthy families. He was explaining our obsession with Nietzsche's philosophy, that our normal development process was corrupted. Throughout the trial, we were talked about everywhere in Chicago. In speakeasies, at parties in wealthy families, homes, in cafes, in working-class neighborhoods, we were the only topic. Some people pitied us, others wanted us to be executed. Prosecutor Robert Crowe, on the other hand, was demanding the death penalty for us. In his speeches in court, he explained how coldly this murder was planned, that we showed no remorse. He said that in order not to shake the Chicago public's faith in justice, we had to be given the heaviest penalty. Clarence Darrow's defense was the complete opposite. In his hours-long speech, he explained that we were still children, how the education given to children of wealthy families created corrupt personalities. He argued that the death penalty was barbarism in the United States, that we could be rehabilitated. In September 1924, the decision was announced. Judge John Caverly sentenced us to life imprisonment. He had not given the death penalty. Darrow's defense had worked, but this meant our life was over. We were sent to Joliet Prison. This was the most high-security prison south of Chicago. Al Capone's men, murderers, thieves, all the criminals of the Prohibition era were here. Prisoners from wealthy families like us were very rarely encountered. Although Dick and I were in the same prison, we were kept in different sections. As the years passed, the friendship between us began to cool. In 1936, Dick was killed by another prisoner in prison. This prisoner named James Day claimed that Dick had sexually harassed him and attacked him with razor blades. I continued to stay in prison. I was reading books, studying languages, working in the prison library. As the years passed, I understood how foolish that young man in 1924 had been. What we had planned as the perfect murder was just the childish fantasy of two young men. When I was paroled in 1958, 34 years later, Chicago had become a completely different city. Prohibition had ended, Al Capone had died, the city had modernized. I was now 54 years old, gray-haired, a man who had spent the best years of his life in prison.
Nathan Leopold Jr.'s story is the most striking example of how wealth and privilege could create twisted personalities in the United States of the 1920s. Two young men who set out with the fantasy of the perfect murder ultimately destroyed their lives. After Leopold was released from prison, he moved to Puerto Rico, worked in social services, and died quietly in 1971. This case remains in America's collective memory as one of the most shocking murders of the 20th century.